Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of February 16th, 2014. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This week, a retrograde Mercury will continue to move through the sign of Aquarius and speak in harmony with Mars. Now, this is part of a continuing conversation that has been taking place over the course of this month and will into the next month as well. And so this is really when mind meets energy, meets motivation, and meets body as well. And this allows us to think and feel and act in ways that are very harmonious and indicates a congruency between what we think and the way in which we behave. So there's clarity on both fronts. And with a retrograde Mercury through Aquarius, there is certainly an element here of clarity on the level of mind, on the level of ideas, and on the level of communication. So even though Mercury is retrograde, there still is this element of having the answers that you need. Now, keep in mind, Mercury is retrograde, so more information is going to come through as this conversation continues. However, for now, we do get some answers that are very much needed and answers that bring clarity of purpose and direction. Shortly after that, we have the sun moving into the sign of Pisces. And so this means happy birthday time for Pisces over the course of the next month. But also it does mean a shift in focus where we understand wherever the sun goes, so goes our understanding of how we want to direct our will. Now, this is different than Mars. Mars is also associated with will, but it's much more immediate, it's much more physical, and it's much more connected to drive. With the sun, if you think about it, the sun is the ancient god Apollo, and Apollo was not only the god of rationality, but also prophecy as well. So there's a clarity and understanding of consequences, understanding on what you shine into the world will determine ultimately what it is that how you're actually directing your energy. So it's much more about being true to yourself and living from that place and shining from that place that allows us to have clarity into the best direction and understand the consequences of how it is. As we shine, we actually manifest and create our own world. And as we shine and connect with that voice inside of us that knows that we're worthy to shine, we're actually able to understand the best course of action. Now, with the sun moving through Pisces, it becomes much more intuitive. It becomes much more about faith and understanding how a state of faith and really monitoring your own emotional state sometimes is the absolute best that you can do to make your life go in a direction that's going to please you. But more than that, ultimately, this Piscean energy is about acceptance. And I think about the Piscean energy is very strongly associated with the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity for the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, really, Piscean energy is that first part of the equation. It's acceptance. And sometimes that is where the greatest power can be found. So we all start a process where in at least one area of life, we are asked to accept as the wisest course of action to help move our lives in a positive direction. And then we have Mercury speaking with Saturn. Now, Mercury will be speaking in Saturn in a different type of conversation, whereas Mercury is speaking with Mars earlier in the week in what's called a trine, which is known as a very harmonious conversation. Mercury is going to speak with Saturn in what's called a square, what astrologers call a square. And this is a conversation of tension and part of also an ongoing conversation as well. But more than that, it's very much needed. It is a conversation of motivation. It's a conversation of understanding what isn't working so that you can adjust course and be motivated to do the work that's required to change your circumstances. With Mercury, again, Mercury being on a level of mind, on a level of clarity, on a level of ideas, especially in the sign of Aquarius, and Saturn being about hard truth, looking at what's actually manifesting in the world, not having it be about a dream, but having it be about what is concrete, what's been proven. When these two elements come together, these two energies come together, it does suggest a time when we're really on a mental level being asked to be honest with ourselves. And it's not always pleasant, depending on how well you deal with obligation and responsibility and manifestation and honoring the incarnation. It's not always the easiest thing. However, it is very much needed and actually does bring about the greatest rewards in terms of tangible, positive outcomes. How all this speaks to you in your sign is coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. This week, there is a continued focus on friends and the information that they bring into your life. But more than that, it looks like friends are helping you to continue to clarify the direction that you want to go in terms of your relationships, in terms of love as well. I do think that there's an element here of you having to look at where maybe some personal changes need to take place, where you need to really let some elements of the past go if you're going to embrace a more hopeful future. And as hard as some of that may seem, ultimately the answer is always, if you really want to move from the past, the answer always lies in forgiveness, whether it's with yourself or with another. It looks like the possibility of greater love is on offer, but allowing yourself to transform is a necessary part of the process of preparing you for greater love than you've known before. Talk it out. Conversations move you towards greater love, greater understanding of what love is going to mean for you, not only in a personal sort of, in a sense of a partnership, but also in a larger sense, in terms of love for yourself and for others, and in terms of cultivating love in your life and cultivating a sense of wisdom as well. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week brings you the opportunity to really look at your work habits, and how they in turn help you to move towards some of your larger goals and your career goals in general. What I am seeing as a very strong possibility right now is maybe you're trying to make a connection with someone who's a higher up, or maybe there's some issues happening with a supervisor or someone in a position of authority. Well, all of that can be smoothed over in some really amazing ways. And all of those types of relationships, whether it's with your coworkers, whether it's with bosses or higher ups, all of that can find a progress taking place now. Now, it does look like if you are in that place right now where you're wanting advancement, where you're asking for advancement, just be mindful that you are going to be asked, especially towards later on, towards the end of the week, middle to later of the week, you're going to be asked to prove that you deserve it. And regardless of what answer comes up, it does look like an answer may come up that says maybe not now, but maybe further on down the road. Well, that further on down the road is a lot sooner than you think, actually. But I do think that there is value in you allowing yourself to sort of make yourself open to maybe some possibilities, some advancements, some opportunities that you want, no matter how far out they seem, because the information that comes back to you ends up being really valuable. The information that comes back to you is going to allow you to refine course so that you can move in a more positive direction, in a direction where you gain supporters, and a direction that leads towards manifestation. Hello, fabulous Gemini. This week does suggest a time when there is a continued focus on matters of whether it's being a kid or whether it's actually having children. All of these areas ultimately have to do with the wise use of your free time and the wise use of your creation energy. And all of this is coming up right now, and it does look like for those of you who are working on a project, a creation of your own, it does look like while there's a lot of motivation the early part of the week, you are going to be asking yourself some tougher questions as to whether or not you can actually take inspiration and manifest it into something not only tangible, but something that promises to bring rewards, practical rewards in the foreseeable future. Is this something, is your idea, your creation something that can actually make money? That's part of the questions that you're going to be asking yourself. But also for those of you who do have children or want to have children, it does look like the motivation is there, the answers are there, the fun is there, certainly. However, if there are any need for, it does look like as we get towards the middle and end of the week, it does look like the possibility of you need to pay more attention, whether it's to your children or to a process to move you towards having more children. It does look like you're going to be asked to pay more attention and to really honor the established way of going about things. So no matter how experimental a parent you are, or no matter how experimental you've been going about it, you are going to be asked to look at what's been tried, tested, and true, and decide on your feelings about those methodologies and whether or not you want to incorporate them. So there's some changes and new understandings coming up in how you understand yourself and your role as a parent. And this could be to actual children. This could be to children in your care. This could be the children you hope to have, but also to your inner child as well. And so if you have been in a place where you haven't been speaking to yourself very kindly, this is going to be a breakthrough time when you really come to understand that now you're a grown-up, and you are responsible for parenting yourself. And once you get to that place, really, you understand that you are responsible for parenting yourself. You are able to give yourself the care that you need today. From that place of self-care, you're able to accomplish just about anything. Hello, fabulous Cancer. This week does bring with it a heightened awareness of just what needs to change in your life, just what it is that needs to transform and what needs to go through what I like to call the alchemical process, or what has been called the alchemical process. So if you think about it, the alchemical process is that of, well, symbolically, it's been thought of as transformation. And an alchemist is that who can take metal and turn it into gold. And ultimately, it is what's heavy in your life, the metal in your life that you're trying to transform into something valuable. And that is a part of a lesson that you've been going through over the course of the last few weeks and will continue to throughout this month and into the next as well. And so what is it that feels really heavy in your life? What is it that has felt like a burden? You're gaining a lot of really important mental clarity into that. And as you continue to gain that mental clarity, as you continue to be honest with yourself about what it is that really has been weighing you down, whether it's beliefs, whether it's expectations, whether it's you thinking that you need to impress certain people that really is none of your concern anymore, when you start to do that, when you start to be honest with yourself, then you can really get to the core matter, which is ultimately that you are responsible for your own happiness, and happiness really is what matters the most in this life, because from a place of happiness, just about anything becomes possible. And so what is it that needs to change so that you can embrace that belief more fully and so that you can step into your happiness more fully? Well, whatever it is, this week gets a lot of your attention and a lot of clarity as well. In the early part of the week, you're actually taking action that is moving you in a very positive direction. And then all of a sudden it looks like in the middle of the week, something in you just kind of stops and sort of holds back and says, oh, wait a minute. Do I really want this change to happen? Am I really ready to let this go? And am I really ready for this transformation? And this is a valuable question because this is going to ask you to really kick in and to really do the work. I'm reminded of the book, actually, as I think about the sky for you, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Now, this is a book I recommend a lot to a lot of different people because it is very archetypal as to the type of changes that need to occur in order for us to fully step into the dream of our life, whatever that is uniquely for you. And so I think about this whole idea of how, regardless of whatever sort of beginner's luck you may have when you're on the road to your dream, eventually you will be tested, because ultimately the dream is not about the attainment of the goal. It is about who you become in the process. And it is that testing that ultimately shapes you into being a better version of yourself. Well, be open to that whole process, because it looks like you're going to get a crash course into being an alchemist in your own life this week. Hello, fabulous Leo. This week, it is really an important time as the sun moves into a new sign. So the sun, being a ruling planet, every month moves into a new sign, does suggest an important shift for you and a shift of focus. And for you, a part of this is going to be a shift towards thinking about finances, thinking more about finances, thinking more about how it is that your finances are strong, where they are not, how it is maybe you could be practicing more things like altering your own energy towards an energy of prosperity to help yourself to actually feel a sense of abundance and in turn manifest a sense of abundance as well. This is something that is part of a life lesson for you that's going to be highlighted now. But more importantly, with Mercury continuing to move through your opposite sign, moving backwards through your opposite sign, having these key conversations I talked about in the intro, it does look like love and relationships is an important area of focus for you now. And so be open to the possibilities that there's more to learn about love. Be open to the possibility that whatever it is that you share, whatever it is that you communicate, especially early in the week, seems to energize you, but then there is going to be a need to further clarify a lot of the things that seem to be said and communicated early on, and understand that it's all part of the process of learning more about love, learning about who you are in terms of relating to another person as well. There's a lot of beauty on offer this week. There's a lot of faith on offer this week as well, but it is going to ask you to look at what love means in your life as part of this larger lesson that you've been going through. And if you can continue to ask the right questions, continue to have the right conversations, you're going to find yourself steadily and slowly continuing to do move towards greater love than you've known before. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week brings a continued focus on matters of health, matters of body. And I think about this energy as very much you being in your element and yet feeling like you're not. And so there's something very natural about you focusing on areas of health, areas of how it actually feels to be in your body, areas of taking better care of yourself, and areas also of looking at the rituals, your little rituals throughout the day. This is an important area of focus right now for you. And while at one side and one way it does feel really natural, and another way it does look like a part of you is kind of uncomfortable or a little bit uncomfortable, and this is necessary. You need to be a little bit uncomfortable to identify what maybe hasn't been working, where maybe you're ready for a change. And I think you will surprise yourself by seeing a part of you may think the change has to be something really big and sweeping. I don't think that's the case. I actually think that best changes, and this is something that you actually know as part of life lessons, the best changes are actually really small. They're about tweaking. They're about understanding that the slightest alterations have a butterfly effect, if you will, and can really transform the trajectory of your health, of your life, of just about any area you can imagine. And so embrace that lesson, because that is the lesson right now. And while you're very motivated early on in the week, especially when you look at how making these changes can help yourself in terms of feeling better about yourself, increasing your self-worth, and even financially as well. While there may be some opportunities on offer that allow you to feel more busy in terms of your work, at the same time, you're going to have to understand what balance means. And you're going to have to understand that taking care of yourself is something that is a continual process. And what worked at one time may not work at another, or what works at one time may need to evolve, may continue to need to change to better serve your needs as you continue to evolve and grow as well. One thing is sure though, you are going through this week as part of a larger lesson of taking the best of care of you, and you seem to be doing that quite nicely. You seem to be embracing the lessons and making the changes in a way that truly will empower you now and for a long time to come. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week there is, with Mercury moving through, continuing to move through, what is called the part of the sky that has to do with creation. And then what you also have is this Mercury communicating with Libra, continuing to move through your sign for an unusually long time. And I look at this conversation taking place, and it does suggest that you are getting really clear on where it is that your energy is best spent in order for you to experience the type of change that you most desire, but also in order for you to move towards greater fulfillment and to really feel like you are creating a life that you can truly be proud of. Now, I would also invite you to consider how with this energy, there tends to be an element of thinking about fulfillment, thinking about Maslow's hierarchy. That's something I like to talk about a lot. And Maslow's hierarchy basically is that we all have our sort of basic needs of food, clothing, shelter. And once those needs are met, our needs change. What we want, what we prioritize in our life changes. And ultimately, as we ascend this hierarchy, at the very top of it is self-actualization, is fulfillment. And this is part of the larger question for you happening now and into next month. Are you ascending that hierarchy? Are you actually moving up that pyramid? Are you moving in a direction where, regardless of what your needs are right now, ultimately you know you're headed in a direction of self-fulfillment? And if you feel like you are not, then you are going to start to be much more honest with yourself and start to look at where you can take action and where you can make changes to move yourself in that direction. No matter what your current circumstances are right now, you truly do have the power, and I do believe early in the week especially, you can feel it. You truly do have the power to move your life in any direction you choose, especially in a direction of greater fulfillment. And if you can embrace that energy, then when the tougher questions come along later on in the week, you'll embrace them and you'll understand them as part of the process of moving you up that ladder of really what it is ultimately that it means to be human, which is to feel well used in this life and to feel really creatively fulfilled. It may seem lofty on one hand, but really it's so important. And if you can really get clear as to what it is you need to start feeling like you're moving up that pyramid, I think you're going to find the more practical elements of money especially have a way of all just falling into place. They're tough questions now, but these questions are going to lead to answers that have the power to transform the trajectory of your life very much to your liking. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. This week does bring with it the continued focus on areas of home, the continued focus on areas of not only where you're living in a practical sense, but also in a more universal sense, where it is that feels like home to you. But more than that, what I see is this element of you feeling at home in your mind and your body. And so you take all these, right? There's a more ephemeral way of understanding home and a more literal way. So if we talk about the literal way, I do think this week there are conversations happening as to the changes that you could be making. Early in the week, you are actually making some changes in the home space that seem to really empower you, that seem to really motivate you, which is awesome. But then once we get you a little bit later into the week, it looks like you're asking yourself, can I really do this? Does this really make sense? And more details are coming in. Well, actually, yes, of course, you can do anything, but it may take a little bit longer than you thought. So if you really feel rushed, like you want to make a change, if you have no choice, then of course you have no choice. But I do think that if you can hold off, it's only going to help you, because whatever changes you make now, first of all, this week, they're going to show you that, okay, maybe you hadn't thought about some things that need to occur to support these changes on the home front, on a practical level, in terms of where you live or who you live with. But also, I look at what's taking place towards the end of the month, and especially once we get into the next month, and that's really when your final answers and your most important power moves are going to come. And so if there are any changes that are being asked now, understand that they may not actually be final, even if it looks final on the surface, and that things are really going to iron out, especially details are really going to iron out later on, a little bit further down the road once we get you into next month. And in a more emotional sense, it's about you feeling more comfortable and safe within yourself and within your own skin. And this week asks you what it is that needs to change in your life so that you can get to that place. And as you find those answers, I think you're going to find yourself feeling very empowered by the answers as well, and starting to make changes, whatever it is, whatever small sort of moment that it is. Regardless, it is significant, and there is something very symbolic about the very slight changes that you make now, because they will start a momentum going, and the fullness of that is going to really manifest next month. But I do think you're headed in a direction of greater self-possession and greater self-empowerment, and you're moving in a direction of feeling more at home and more safe within yourself, no matter where it is that you go in the world. From that place, just about anything becomes possible to you. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week, with Mercury moving through the sign of Aquarius, I look at this energy, Mercury being a planet of communications, Mercury also being the ruling planet of your opposite sign, which has an association with partnership and love. And then you look at where it is that Mercury is moving. And Mercury is actually in a part of the sky that has to do with mind, that has to do with perception, and that has to do with communication. And considering the different conversations that Mercury is going to be having now, it does suggest a time when you are really understanding yourself, understanding partnership very differently, but also you're having a lot of conversations. This is what really it comes down to. There's a lot of messages coming in, but I do think that there's an element here of you maybe at first interpreting things really positively and then sort of getting in more details and saying, okay, wait, I didn't realize that before. And so just be mindful of that, especially if you're meeting somebody, if you're out there and you're open to meeting people, whether it's partnership for love or whether it's partnership for professional purposes. I do think that there's an element here of you meeting people and not necessarily fully understanding who they are, and then more information coming in later and you saying, oh, okay, I didn't realize that about you. I didn't know that about you. And so this is going to end up being really valuable to you because there is an element here of you really understanding how a lot of your own perceptions can color what it is that you see, what it is that's actually manifesting in your life, especially where it comes to your relationships with other people, and also helping you to see your own expectations and where your own expectations actually lead you in a direction of greater sense of love. Really is what it comes down to. Do you feel understood? Do you feel loved? Whether it's in platonic relationships, whether it's in romantic relationships, and where it is that maybe you need to speak up for what it is ultimately that you need more of. Now that may be part of the hardest step here because it does look like there's a part of you that may feel some fear with actually doing that, speaking up, and not understand why you feel that fear. Well, just embrace the whole process because ultimately there is an element here of you in a slow, long-term cycle right now about releasing fears and having a feeling of restlessness and just having to deal with it and saying, you know, sometimes life doesn't feel all that calm and content, and that's okay. I'm going to ride the wave anyways. If you allow yourself to go through the different feelings that come up for you now and the different communications that come up for you now as well, you're going to understand exactly how it is that you are coming across and how it is that you can be more clear about the love and connections that you do want. Once you get that clarity, you are moving in the right direction to actually receiving the best that love has to offer to you. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. This week with Mercury continuing to move through the sign immediately after yours, there is a continued focus on finances for you. And this week it does look like the week does start off with a sense of really like a lot of energy and a lot of hope. And it looks like you're taking action and you really feel like this is going to move you in the direction of prosperity. And certainly it can, but there need to be some tough questions answered. And the main tough question that I'm seeing is this something that you really want? Is this something that's really worth doing, regardless of what the money is or isn't? Is this something that you really want to be doing in order to create greater prosperity in your life? Or is there something else you could be doing? And also a big question for you has to do with worth. Do you really feel that you're worthy of this shot, of this chance? Do you really feel that you are worthy of taking the step that you need to so that you can actually experience greater abundance? Once you really face a lot of these insecurities, you're going to find yourself healed of them. And I think if there's any sign that really can have some major transformations take place for you personally that really help you to leap in the direction of greater prosperity, it really is you. But it does involve you looking at yourself much more personally, looking at some of your relationships, some of your alliances, and looking at where it is maybe that you have actually been feeling a little bit unsure of yourself, and where maybe you can now put that to the side because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if you know for sure where this is going or not, and whatever this is for you, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you believe in yourself and you believe in what you feel and your instincts in this moment, and you trust that, because ultimately it is that that's going to lead you to your learning. And I do believe very much that if you trust your learning, then the universe, everything else that needs to happen on a physical plane has a way of falling into place. So trust those instincts, trust those emotions, and at the same time, when you see the fear, allow yourself to acknowledge it and take the steps anyways, because ultimately this time is about releasing any fears that have to do with prosperity in your life. Undertake this work. Ask yourself the tough questions. They're going to continue now and for the next few weeks. And I think you're going to find once we get you into the spring, you are in a much more solid place to experience greater prosperity than you've known before. Hello, fabulous Aquarius. This week, Mercury continues to move backwards through your sign. And so you are rethinking who you are, what it is that you want to share, how it is that you understand yourself, what type of person it is that you believe yourself to be and that you actually want to be in the world. And I think about this element of how Mercury is connecting with different power players in the sky. So in harmony with Libra, which does suggest you really feeling very connected to a higher vision and really feeling like your life is guided in a sense and feeling very confident in where it is that you desire to go in your life, and especially creatively. And that's really great. It all seems very empowering, especially early in the week. It looks like you really get a lift and you see things in yourself that you like very much, and you make the connection between what it is that you're doing right now, what it is that you believe about yourself, and how that's actually helping you to fulfill a greater plan for your life. But then it is a little bit later on in the week that you are asking yourself some tough questions as to just what is it that you're trying to do here? Really, what is it that you really want to achieve? What goals is it that you really want to do? And if these goals are in alignment with, are they congruent with who it is that you believe yourself to be? If you can get that clarity, I think that you're going to find yourself really empowered to make some very positive changes. But more than that, I think you're going to find yourself really adjusting the understanding you have of who you are, and really grounding yourself in a sense of spiritual identity. Really grounding yourself in a sense of clarity as to what it is that you're doing here, whether it's what it is you're doing here professionally or what it is that you're doing here in the world. This is a very important time in your life. Don't put that to the side. When Mercury moves backwards through your sign, and especially when it moves backwards in your sign, in the sign of Aquarius, it is an important time because it is asking you to really get clear on just what it is that you're doing in the world, who it is that you really think that you are, because from that place of clarity, just about anything becomes possible. And with Mercury communicating with Saturn the way that he is now, these questions may come on in a way that feels tough. They may come on in a way that feels heavy even, especially on a level of mind. But if you can convert that into action, if you can actually take those questions, say, you know what, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but I'm going to take action anyways. This work is in front of me to do, and I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm going to trust that it's leading me in a good place. I think you're going to find that a lot of the tension resolves itself and that you get the answers you need. And I think you're going to find yourself coming to a sense of a new identity, a renewed identity of a person who is truly grounded in a sense of self that is rooted in spirit. If you come at the world from that place, just about anything becomes possible to you. And this week you gain a lot of clarity as to just what that place is for you. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week with Mercury moving backwards in the sign just before your sign, your dreams continue to be a very active space where a lot of answers come through now. It may not always feel so comfortable, but what truth does come up is actually going to help you tremendously once we get you into next month. And so I do think that the spring is going to be an important launch moment for you. And I think you're going to start to really notice this momentum a little bit further down the road once we get you to the very end of this month and the beginning of March in particular. And that sort of helps you to create a momentum that kicks off further on down the road. But this week continues to be an important process in that because a lot of things are shifting within you. So continue to keep that dream journal. I do think that the likelihood of you having a moment with somebody where you kind of see where some of your own, and I gotta say it because we all have them, we all can have sometimes sort of stereotypes or prejudices, and I think you may actually surprise yourself. It may not necessarily be anything outward that you do, but I think your own expectations are going to come up and face you. And as they do that, as you look at yourself, I do think that you're going to find yourself having a very important moment of honesty as to just what it is that you not only believe about yourself, but also other people, and how it is that other people are in their own way, just being themselves and going for love in their own way, as we all are as well. And once you can actually see that in another person, once you can actually see as no matter how convoluted or how much disconnected you felt from that, that person is going for greater love and greater wisdom in their own way, I think you're going to be able to grant a lot of generosity to yourself as well, and a lot of tenderness to yourself as well. And from that place, I think your own process is going to become a lot more clear. So don't go into a place of beating up on yourself and saying, oh my God, I can't believe I believe that. I can't believe I could be that kind of person. Don't go into that place. Instead, go into the place of understanding that the fact that this is coming up for your awareness is a part of your healing. And a fact that this is all coming up for your awareness is going to allow you to really see how how a lot of what you have already prejudged before has determined a lot of your experience, and how maybe you're actually better than that now. And once you acknowledge that, then I do think that you are going to more accurately see your life from a perception of spirit. And from there, you will take on greater meaning to all of your actions, to all of your thoughts. So again, keep that dream journal. Continue to keep that dream journal, because some important steps forward are coming up for you next month, in the month of March. And this week forms an important part of the process as you let go of some outmolded beliefs, as you let go of some stereotypes that have gotten in the way of you truly shining your light in the world. Well, thank you so much for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Thank you for watching. It'll be a great month. Be fabulous and enjoy.